Now, here's some newly released footage I wanted to show you because this is almost comically literal in the whole idea of a cover-up. This is from the day of Jeffrey Epstein's death. This is newly released footage that we haven't seen before. They literally set up a board to cover it so you cannot see what's going on down below, because right back here is exactly where all of the action would be. This is much later after Jeffrey Epstein's death, but they are, in a very literal sense, covering up you being able to see what is going on down there. And they didn't release this footage until recently, so this was intentionally withheld during previous releases when they had released what was supposed to be all of the footage. This was not released. So this is not the explosive part of the cover-up, but I thought this was almost amusing that they, in a very literal sense, did try to cover this up while the investigation was ongoing. Now, this footage right here I found far more interesting. So this is showing the command center. Basically, if there was a phone call that needed to be made, if counts were being made, they would call this area right here. And I was very confused as to why it says L tier on here. I was wondering, why on earth would they call this L tier? This isn't a tier at all. This is a command center. So why isn't this generically labeled like the other areas? Why on earth would this be labeled L tier? And so I started going through some of the footage, and I want to show you what I found. As you're watching, you're going to see that all of a sudden, it switches to L tier. Now, this is the real L tier. Now the label is correct. And as you can see, this is the hallway where Jeffrey Epstein stayed. This is exactly the camera they said was not working, and yet here we have it. So you may be saying to yourself, well, what if they fixed it in a day? Well, I can tell you for a fact we know, because there's a ton of evidence and there's a ton written up by the technical teams. DVR2 was not fixed by the 11th. But what that means is that the footage of Jeffrey Epstein's cell block should have been saved. That actually should have been recording. So you may be wondering what happened. Why is this labeled as L tier? Because clearly this isn't L tier, that's L tier. Well, somebody screwed up. Maybe whoever did this is not very technically savvy, but somebody messed things up, because what happened was that what should have been L tier is now identifying this command center as L tier. What should have been labeling this right here correctly as L tier was now labeling this as L tier. So somebody messed with some settings, somebody screwed with something, and maybe it's somebody who didn't really know exactly what they were doing, because that shouldn't have happened. Because this, I can tell you for sure, is not L tier. So when I talk about this being proof of a cover-up, we now know that footage from L tier should exist. This unequivocally was recording to the functioning DVR system. There should be footage of this. So somebody, somewhere along the line, messed with this. That is the only possible explanation. All right, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of what the big problems with this case continue to be. As I said previously, I do not believe that Jeffrey Epstein was suspended in his cell. There's nothing about the way that it's been described, the evidence that we've seen, that would suggest that that is in fact how it went down. In addition to that, it does seem like somewhere somebody was involved in a cover-up of the footage of what happened that night, because it's nowhere to be found, but it certainly seems like it was recording to a functional system, despite the fact that there were claims that it was in fact writing to one that is broken and doesn't work. If you have any other thoughts about this, or if there's anything else you want me to analyze, please let me know in the comments below. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.